Hi, my name is Rebecca and welcome to Yarn and Pajamas. Today is another episode of Hooked on Murder. So we are in February and it is the month of love. But what happens when love turns sour? I have some stories for you guys about that. So this February I've got some murders about love taking a deadly turn. But before I get started, I want to say hi to my friends Jake and Lori Kay. And now let's get something to work on. And I'm working on a Sarah Satch triple thick pot holder pattern. I'm using some, what is this? I love this cotton in, I think, City Beat. So I'm going to be working on a one of the granny squares for the pot holder. So go grab you guys something to drink and something to work on and settle in and listen to the story of the murder of Betty Jean Solomon. So we are going to travel all the way to Greenboro, New York, and we're going to go back to January 15th, 1989. So on January 15th, 1989, 911 receives a phone call from a woman in distress, but they can't pinpoint the location of the phone call and it quickly hangs up. Later that evening, Paul Solomon returns home from an evening out and he finds his wife, Betty Jean, dead in their home. She had been shot 9 times in her back and her legs. She had also been pistol whipped in her head. So at first the police were like really focused in on Paul, as you know, police often do. It's always, you know, looking at the ones closest to the individual who's murdered. Sorry, my nose is itching real bad. So they focus in on Paul, and he gives them the alibi that he goes to stop by the bowling alley, and he was only there for a brief period of time. He was there to visit some friends, and then after that, he goes to, let's see, the Holiday Inn Treetop Lounge in Yonkers, New York, where he meets up with his mistress, Carolyn Warmus, and they have a couple drinks at the Treetop Lounge, and then they go outside to her car and they are intimate with one another. So his friends at the bowling alley confirm this. Carolyn confirms this. So the police have no other recourse but to start looking at someone else because Paul has alibied out. So during the course of their investigation, they learn that Carolyn Warmus, who is Paul Solomon's mistress, had purchased a 25 caliber Beretta and a silencer. So they started looking at her. So they pulled her phone records, and for the day of the murder, January the 15th, they see that she called Ray's Sports Shop. So they called Ray's Sports Shop and went to the location and asked about a woman purchasing a gun or bullets, ammunition for the gun. They said that the only purchase made by a woman was made by, I can't ever remember names, so I've got some notes here. Her name was Lisa Caddy. And when they questioned Lisa, she told them that, you know, of course, she didn't purchase any ammunition. She had never been to Ray's, but that her driver's license had either been stolen or lost during her summer job. Well, when they looked it up, she worked during the summer with Carolyn Warmus. So Carolyn was indicted for Betty Jean's murder on February the 2nd, 1990. So it was like almost a whole year. And her first trial began on January the 14th, 1991. So Paul Solomon testified for the prosecution, but for his testimony, he received immunity from any prosecution to do with Carolyn, or to do with Betty Jean's murder. So he said that him and Carolyn started an affair when they met at their place of employment. They were both teachers at an elementary school. So when she started working there, they met and then started this affair. So it lasted for about 18 months, and Paul said that he went to break it off, to tell Carolyn that it was over, and she just would not accept it. She said that she couldn't stand to live if she had to live in a world without him. And he told her that she was just being dramatic. But the affair continued after that. So the jury, sorry about the train, it kind of threw me off there for a minute. The jury came back deadlocked 8-4, and it was a hung jury. So the judge declared a mistrial, and the prosecutors had to refile the case. So the second trial began in January of 1992, and new evidence was presented at this trial. So during the time period between the first trial and the second trial, Paul, the husband of Betty Jean, found in their closet, hidden behind some stuff, a bloody cashmere glove. Now he claims that this glove belongs to Carolyn, and Carolyn claims that she has no idea whose glove that is, but it most definitely is not hers. But the judge allows the bloody glove into evidence. He allows it to be evidence, even though the prosecution cannot prove that it belonged to Carolyn, like, at all. But the judge allows it. So the jury was out for like 6 hours, and they came back with a unanimous vote of guilty for second-degree murder and second-degree possession of a firearm. And the judge sentenced her to 25 years to life in prison, and then 15 years for the gun charge to run like concurrent to her first charge. So during her sentencing, now during her second trial, and during the second trial, her main defense was that she was being framed by Paul Solomon because of the bloody glove, and like the saying that they were breaking up, and that she just was claiming that she wasn't going to live her life without him, and all of that. So she says at sentencing, "I can only ask for leniency because I am innocent. If I'm guilty of anything at all, it was simply being foolish enough to believe the lies and promises that Paul Solomon made to me." So she went before the parole board 3 different times. And on her third time, on June the 17th of 2019, she was released on parole after spending 27 years in prison. Now, she has maintained her innocence throughout her entire prison stay, and to this day, she still maintains it. So, she's fighting now for exoneration from the charges to clear her name. So in May of 2021, the prosecutor from Westchester County, I believe, said that they would re-examine DNA evidence from the crime scene to see if it implicates anybody else to be involved in the murder. But to this day, no test results have been released. So that is the story of the murder of Betty Jane Solomon. So what do you guys think? Do you think that Carolyn committed murder because she was so in love with Paul that she wanted to get his wife out of the picture so that she could have him all to herself? Or do you think that Paul decided that he wanted to be a free man because all during his marriage he had extramarital affairs throughout, and the majority of the women came from his place of employment? So do you think that he just wanted out of his marriage but didn't want to have to go through a messy divorce, and found 28-year-old Carolyn naive enough to be his patsy, I guess, for the murder? I find it odd that the judge would allow the bloody glove, which wasn't even found by a police officer. And I mean, like, wouldn't you think that they would search that house top to bottom for evidence? And it was Paul who found the glove in the closet between the first and second trial. I find that a little fishy that, you know, they allowed that in to be evidence. But yeah, so that is a story. They dubbed it the Fatal Attraction murder in the press because it closely mimicked that Glenn Close and Michael Douglas movie, Fatal Attraction? I guess maybe that was why they called it that. But yeah, so let me know down below, guys, what you guys think about the murder, and about, do you believe Carolyn, who's maintained her innocence? She's really wanting the DNA evidence from specifically that glove. I believe she filed an appeal once, wanting the DNA evidence tested against that glove, but the judge said okay, but no tests were ever done on it. So do you think that the DNA evidence might point to someone else being the perpetrator? Maybe Paul? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. And hopefully I'll be back pretty soon with another tale of love gone wrong. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.